Hello, welcome to a special edition of CropLife Retail Week, brought to you this week by growers. We are here at the 2022 Tech Hub Live event in Indianapolis, and oh my, okay, I think I may have had a little bit too much to drink last night because it seems like it's 2021 all over again. I seem to be sitting next to my former co-host on this event, Paul Shrimp. Hi.
Do you owe me money? Where am I?
All right. Okay.
What?
Hey, Bugs, you're in my chair.
All right. Well, I guess we'll reset. We'll be right back and try to recover. Thank you. Well, hello again. We are back. Yes, we did have a good friend of the show, of course. Those longtime viewers out there must, of course, remember Paul Shrimp, who was my co-host for better than 7 years as we were putting these together. And Paul is actually doing things that brought him to Tech Hub Live 2022. So, Paul, welcome to the show as a guest.
Thank you. So now the viewers have gotten the feel for who the smarter one was through all the months, years that we did this, right? So,
okay.
And I'll let them decide.
All right.
So.
Fair enough. So, Paul, tell the viewers what you've been up to since you left our warm confines of CropLife Retail Week.
First of all, I want to say great job on Tech Hub Live. Great job, to the entire team. It's fun to come out here. I think the vibe this year was very much focused on making the most of the technologies that we have that exist and trying to build value for growers and programs. And it was a very much workman vibe. Remember last year it was more of a just exuberance about getting back together again.
True.
And now it's really getting down to business, getting to work, and lots of really good interaction, meetings happening everywhere. So you feel like things are getting done this year, which is fantastic. So that was a great experience. But I am here representing Ag Gateway as Marketing Communications Director, and working with Jeremy Wilson, who's our Chief Operating Officer and North American Director. And he talked a little bit about Ag Gateway and some of the tools that we have going on. I think, after the pandemic, we're in a building mode. We've got a number of working groups that are working on a number of projects to build connectivity and interoperability across agriculture. So we wanted to talk about those, and we have our annual meeting coming up in November 14th through the 16th in Florida. That we welcome anyone to join us in, but it's been just having lots of discussions about what we're doing and the importance of interoperability and connectivity, and how retailers can participate in that, how manufacturers and things that they're doing kind of work with retailers and just make everybody more efficient. So that whole deal is it's been a lot of fun, exciting work.
Very good. So, viewers, if you're interested, check out the link on our video to Ag Gateway and check out their event for yourself if you happen to be in Florida come November. But Paul, good to see you again. Glad you joined us, and if you folks will stay tuned, we'll be right back with a regularly scheduled co-host talking more about what's going on here at Tech Hub Live.
Thanks, Eric.
Well, welcome back to the video. I have my regular compadre here now, Lara Sowinski, and Laura, it was fun. It was fun. I got to admit, it was fun to see my old coworker Paul Shrimp, and get to talk to him a little bit. And of course, the reason for that was because we were at Tech Hub Live, which we did talk about. But I know you and I now have spent the last 2.5 days basically going over everything that went on at this event. Give me some of your key takeaways from what we heard and saw.
Well, just got off the stage, really. So probably need to decompress a little bit and reflect back. But I think the one word that's kind of emerged for me is diversity. And admittedly, again, this is only my first Tech Hub Live. I know last year was the inaugural year, and being that I've only been with the company 4.5 months, I didn't get to attend. So this is my first one. big expectations on my part, and I know on the part of the attendees and exhibitors. So I feel that we really, really did a great job. The feedback thus far has been very, very good, honestly, and that feels terrific. And the one thing that I know a lot of people have said, one thing they liked, for instance, just on how we delivered the content. We had not only the general sessions and breakouts, like you would expect from a trade show, but the fireside chats, the roundtable discussions, tech talks for sure. There was a lot that was going on, so people can kind of cruise around the show floor and get a little this, get a little that, and that was a big hit. And I think in particular the fireside chats where it was the nice little cushy, things people could sit down on little stools, and we had the hokey fire thing going on. It was great. It was a good vibe, and I know we had some conversations that were great. We got everything on tape, so I'm certainly thrilled with that part of it. So a lot of diversity on that side, and honestly, the content. I was clearly deeply involved in the content, preparing and working with Rose to identify sessions and speakers. But when you're finally there and you're finally meeting the speakers and you're experiencing the discussions and hearing from people, it was really, really, it was, forgive me, again, little probably stuck for words. It's just, it was a lot, but it was so fantastic in that I just oftentimes I find myself like, wow, I never thought of that, or how enlightening was that? I have tons of notes that, sort through, and got some good stuff going on social media. So I think that was the key word for me. It was just how diverse the content was, diversity in terms of the speakers. I know we had, excuse me, obviously a lot of folks from our industry who were well known. We had a lot of folks that people probably never knew or hadn't met, and I think that was a good way to keep things fresh. So
Yeah, and
overall,
I agree, and I know that you teased the fireside chats, and again, those were one-on-one interviews, basically in a nice relaxed setting, and we were talking to some of the CropLife 100 ag retailers, some of the biggest ag retailers in the marketplace. And promise you viewers, haven't had a chance to go over all of those videos yet, but I will, and we'll pull out some key moments and clips that we'll be sharing with you in the weeks to come. So, but in the meantime, before we get to some of my observations from the show, here is a word from our sponsor this week, Growers. So Laura, you shared with us your observations and takeaways from Tech Hub Live. I know one of the sessions I sat in on, I know a lot of people they were talking a little bit about how hard it is to find workers and help in their operations. And of course, some people are looking to autonomous vehicles to help fill the gaps and help out on that front. And I know one of the sessions I attended was talking about autonomous vehicle development. And here is a good friend of ours, Paul Welbig from Raven Industries, talking about the 5 categories that in his mind make up autonomous vehicles.
In my 25 plus year career in precision agriculture, I just can't, believe, kind of where we are, and that there's a ever more exciting time than we are right now in this, because of this type of technology, because of a lot of the things that we're all mutually working on and trying to solve a lot of the challenges that Caleb did a nice job describing, and all the other things. So I thought just to recap a few things. I was here last year and kind of talked about kind of some of our product lines and some of the things we're doing in the autonomy space, and So this is more of an update on the progress that we've made, and maybe to set the stage a little bit, just to benchmark and baseline kind of the steps to autonomy. We call it the path to autonomy, which I've highlighted here, is we kind of divide it up into 1 through 5, whereas level 1 is kind of your base technology, precision technology, utilized mostly today with most operations on the farm or at the ag retail locations, wherever. Auto steer, VRA application, using a display, those types of things. Level 2 is when we start introducing connectivity to the equation. That's where we're starting to get, gather data and, kind of have some tool sets on web portals and mobile devices and things like that, which is all enabled through connectivity. And one of the other aspects of that that's beneficial for autonomy is coordination and optimization. So where you're starting to utilize more than one piece of equipment in a field doing a particular operation, you can now multiply that amongst many. Level 3 is when we start to automate more things in that cab, even though there is a driver in there. We call it operator-assisted autonomy, where, again, the automation through technology can automate a lot more of those functions, and to the point where the operator is literally just sitting in the seat. And you're like, well, why would you bother with that? Well, there are some benefits to having an operator in the cab. And like Caleb was mentioning about just automating, let the computer take over, consistency, accuracy, all those types of things, reducing fatigue, all sorts of other ideas as far as, you could take a junior operator and make them, a good operator better, a better the best. You can kind of increment them up through the technology, and then having somebody there to observe, making sure that, the implement is working accurately, those types of things. So we're just finding benefits of things that we're doing for autonomy actually can also benefit the operator in the cab. Level 4 is when we start to really get excited. That's supervised autonomy. So now the machine is operating, automatically, and but there's no operator, there's no driver in the cab. It's being supervised from the edge of the field. So the video that Caleb showed, our OmniPower platform, we would classify as a level 4 supervised autonomous machine. So somebody is still monitoring that machine. In the case of the video, that operator was supervising it from the cab of another vehicle. So, and then level 5 is the end game, I guess you would say. When you hit the easy button, the robot goes and does its thing. There's no one around to supervise it necessarily. It just goes out kind of like a Roomba or something, just and goes and takes care of it. So I wouldn't say we're quite there yet. We're not. We're really focused primarily in level 3 and level 4 today, and we have offerings already available in those areas.
So that's what Paul Welbig from Raven Industries had to say about autonomous vehicles, which I thought was very enlightening. One other person I do want to spotlight, of course, at any event like this, of course, you always have a keynote address, a keynote speaker, and we were lucky enough to get David Widmar, and I'll make sure I get this, Agricultural Economic Insights co-founder, as our keynote address speaker. Laura, I'll start with you. I mean, what were some of, in your mind, the key points that David made to our audience, and why you think those were important?
Yes, David had one really great slide, I think, that kind of captured the essence of what he spoke about. Understandably, folks are a little bit feeling uncertain. What's the next year look like? What do we, I mean, there's so much volatility and disruption right now in the market. It's hard to get a sense of when things are going to settle. And the way that he kind of laid it out, it's like, look, admittedly, things feel pretty shaky right now, but this is exactly what the ag cycle, the business cycle, tends to do. And he used a graphic of a roller coaster, and he had 6 items on that roller coaster. One is like, when you're on the flat land before you're going to chug up the hill. So that's kind of he called it the demand shift. So this is where we're stable, but then suddenly it's spiking. We have, demand that's coming in. So demand shift creates strong profits. Now we're going up the hill. We're almost to that peak. you have this boom. The cost structure rises and acres expand. 3, it's when you just peaked and now you're holding your hands up and screaming, you're just anticipating the ride down. So this is the expanded production matching or exceeding demand. And then you're screaming, bloody blazes flying down the hill, variable expenses decline. Again, this is a very effective graphic, I must say. Then you hit the bottom of that hill, fixed expenses decline. And this is the recovery period. And then 6, you're back to that stable. This is the production costs and commodity prices start to moderate again. So this swing is really something that, and he charted it out. I mean, there's no, what's that saying, numbers never lie. So when what you feel sometimes doesn't match truly what's going on. And he was good about grounding everyone, like, hey, this is how it is. We're just in the midst of it right now. And it might be compressed. In other words, these last 2 years really just gave us that wild whipsaw, but this is to be expected. It was great. And he certainly ended on a positive note. He said, look, the profits that are there, they'll continue to be there. We have to ride this out a bit, but certainly ended on an up note. So that was great.
Yeah, and I know the one takeaway I took, of course, is he mentioned about the opportunities for growers when you're talking about oil seeds and the oil seeds market, and the fact that you mentioned sunflower seeds and canola, and of course the U.S. soybean. And I know that when we saw the planting numbers from USDA this year, soybean acreage was up 4%. So again, it was interesting to see that that's something that he was able to focus on.
Right. One other a quote that he mentioned, and I wrote this down because he used a great example. He said, demographics are very predictable, but they're too often ignored. He used Cadillac as an example.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, the folks get older. He's the way he was describing it was good story. Says they get older, they move to Florida, they're not driving around as much, they're going to keep the car a lot longer. But he said Cadillac made a really good move. They recognized that their key consumer, their customer, had essentially aged out. So they shifted. And when you think of the Cadillac brand now, you clearly don't think of, just an older person that's driving it. So he's like, you're always going to hit that wall and you have to shift. You have to be cognizant of who your audience is, who your customer is. So that was another really key point. It sounds like, well, of course you do, but there's plenty of examples out there where people stumble on that. They don't make that shift. So that was a good point.
Okay, well, you gave me a great segue because of course, it's now time for our favorite segment of the show, time for Fun with Numbers. And keep in mind David Widmore, because the number I'm going to give you came from his presentation. So that should give you a clue there. But I'm going to tailor these questions or these possible answers enough that, hopefully maybe I'll trick you. But we'll see if you're paying attention to some of his other graphs. I agree with you. The roller coaster was nice, but he did have some other graphs and they were number intensive, and I was sure to jot them down. So your number this week is 33%.
Okay.
All right. Now,
and I think I know what you're going to ask me. Okay, go.
Okay. This 33%, is that A, the percentage of U.S. growers under the age of 55? Or is it B, the percentage of intermediate farmers, and those were defined as making less than $350,000 per year, that are currently in the United States? Is it C, the percentage of farms with more than one operator? Or is it D, is the percentage of time that you and I collectively over the last 3 days of Tech Hub Live were able to sit still?
Well, I think we've ruled out D 100%.
Without question. That number is easily in the single digits.
This is the only day in my lifetime I've ever skipped a lunch. Wow. Yeah. I think it's B. I think it's B.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
Oh,
believe
C.
it or not, I gave you 33% as your number, and according to David's presentation, it was 38% is that group. Very close.
Oh,
And the percentage of farms in the US with more than one operator, that was 54%. So the correct answer is actually A. 33% is the percentage of growers in the US under the age of 55. And
wow.
as many people made this point at this meeting, trying to connect with the younger generation of grower customers is going to be of paramount importance as we go forward for ag retailers. So again, there's a group out there, it's about 1/3, but we need to connect with them, and that's the group we're going for. So
Absolutely. Man, you broke my record.
I'm
Doggone it.
sorry. Like I said, guys, yeah. David had three very intensive numbers charts in a row, and I thought, okay, I'm going to use all of them and see which one, and the percentages were close. So, oh well. Well, listen, everybody, thank you for joining us from Tech Hub Live. We really had a blast. It was a really great event. If you were here, wonderful. I hope you stopped by and said hi. If not, we'll hopefully look forward to seeing you at next year's Tech Hub Live in Des Moines in July. But in the meantime, Eric Sfiligoj here with Lara Sowinski and our good friend Paul Shrimp at the beginning of the video. Special thanks to our sponsors for this week's video, Growers. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.